Guys, good morning. And sorry, I awarded 2 hours and 30 minutes of coding because I slept like for 10, 20 hours. I'm sorry, but it was still good. Where is our ledger? Let me just do this. Guys, wait a second. Guys, wait a sec. Because I'm trying to get my. Okay, no, Shin is not working, so sorry. But like I said, I have to do 3 hours and 33 minutes of coding unless I have exams. Then I probably will not be able to. Yeah. So wait a second. Wait a sec. First, something is happening to my PC. I don't know what, but it's lagging so hard. Wait a minute. Wait a sec. Wait a minute. We would then bomb stepping up. Isham up. Triple underground methods. Straighter. Motion. Motion. I don't know. Mm, 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 mm. As I walk in the valley of death, I take a look back, realize that I'm dead because in and living so long, even my broken heart, but I never was the bad. So that. Ayo, DPT, ayo. How do I? So, you. Yo, Shaka. So, we burr, bug, burr, 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 burr. First not working. Patch them. Okay, guys. Guys, we are fully set up. Let's bring back our live. This is what I set up the coding master 2, and the coding master 1 was in my different data account, and it's different one. Okay, that's this. Let's add a timer. We want 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
And all of these plus signs, and maybe we also want a work process just in add. So we do that here. We're using I'm going to add this to this hashtag symbol right here. So our link works. Now at this here, we're using the double quote to tell JavaScript that we're working with a string. And if we then use a double quote here as well, then we're actually add and double quote to that URL as well. How do we do that? Well, now we actually need to close off the string before the hashtag because we're going to add a JavaScript variable. So then we will add the double quote, a plus sign, and then a plus again, and then a double quote yet again to start this string right here. Of course, then actually which looks like valid age tab. And actually, Google is smart enough to just give us the answer at the top here. You can see it's pulled it from this rapid target out of the string again. And if you're using target blank, it won't work properly. It'll open up a new tab which just has a super, and it works. However, this string is really long and ugly in my opinion.
He's going
It's
to
a
use ampersand, I think.
complicated expression, right? This is completely. So in order to make this expression a lot simpler, we'll use what's called template strings. And to make it super clear for you, the benefit of template strings, I'm actually going to comment out this current
I think it's going to be this. Let me show you. These.
string, and then on a new line, create the template string so that you can compare the two. And the way you turn a normal string into a template string is by replacing the quotes that wrap the string with backticks instead. So let's do that and pay attention to what happens with the syntax highlighting of my leads and the plus operators when we do that. I'm going to do that and
See, guys,
that. As you can see, it all just became blue. So now this is no longer a JavaScript expression. It's just a string. But we are of course going to fix that after we've looked at the first huge benefit with template strings, which is that you can break it into multiple lines. Something we couldn't do with the normal double quote string up here. So this gives us the opportunity to write our HTML much like our HTML looks like in an HTML file, like this. This is a much easier expression for us humans to parse than this one up here. So now we have that. It's time to take these sections here, which previously rendered out the leads, but now just are plain strings, and simply delete them and replace them with a $sign, open and close curly brackets. Then passing in whatever JavaScript expression we want inside there. This is how you kind of escape out of the string and shove it.
Isn't that these blanks going to be registered in this? Or like in HTML, just sees the li and then it just converts it to its, yeah.
JavaScript
It can just delete the
expression into the string. My opinion, much easier than what we had here with the quote, the plus, then the expression, then another plus, then a quote. Simply replace all that with this. And now if you want to go even further, we can add the contents of the anchor tag in a new line so that we get this really nicely formatted expression that looks just like we would write it in the HTML file. If we now run this code, save the input, it works just as it did previously. But now we have removed all of the ugly pluses, all of this wrestling we had to do between single quotes and double quotes and make sure that we used each of them in proper order. Here we can do whatever we want. We can even replace this here with a double quote and use single quotes there all about. So over the next few lessons, you are going of the template string. But now I've been writing code for far too long. The point here is that you should write the code. That's what Scrimba is all about. So over the next few lessons, you are going to get your hands dirty with template strings. Now you are going to practice template strings, or template literals, as people also call it. I prefer template strings though, as that's just an easier expression. Your job is to take this string, which is a concatenation of two hard-coded strings and a variable, and turn it into a template string. I'm console logging it down here on line 8 so that you can see results. If we run it, you can see that it says, "Hey James, how's it going? Chairs pair." So go ahead and change this from a standard double quote string.
See, what you're going to do is just write something so you have my mouse away. So then see what you're going to do. Just wrap them in dollar ampersand signs. Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to add this, this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do this, this, this. Yeah. Coming back again. I have done it.
Of course, I will show you the solution. Simply recipient, our sign. Let's make our email variable even more dynamic so that it also can take a sender value, which is the person sending the email. So you are to create a new variable and call it sender and set its value to your name. Then in the email template string, you are to use your sender variable instead of pair. So you're going to replace this text with your variable. Then just run the code and you will verify that it works.
Sender's name. then fucking weapon. Let's go.
Through the console log. Good luck.
Hopefully, good luck.
Okay, let's do this. We'll create a const, call it sender, and I'll actually set it to my entire name here, Harold Morgan, so that we can see that it actually works when we log it out. Big benefit with template strings is that you can break them into multiple lines, which is really handy. For example, in our email
Screen by the script own unique ID combined a coded and screen recording in
case here, you'd most likely want to write this on multiple lines, like have the hey template strings. Big benefit with template strings is that you can break them into multiple lines, which is really handy. For example, in our email case here, you'd most likely want to write this on multiple lines, like have the hey in one line and have the text in one line and then the shares in the final line. And this is possible, unlike with regular strings, like we're using here for my name. To prove that, let's actually try to break this into another line. What you see here is that we get these red underlines and the syntax highlighting has been completely broken. And if we try to run this, we'll see that we get a syntax error. So obviously not something we can do. We have to get it back on one line. But for our template strings, it will work, and that is the challenge as well. I want you to break the email string into multiple lines, however you think it makes sense to do that. And then you are to run the code to see that it works. However, there's a gotcha here, which is that in the Scrimba console, you will only see one line regardless of how many lines the string actually consists. Here is an example where I've created this random string, which is on 3 different lines. You can see that in the Scrimba console, we're logging it out on a single line. Whereas in the DevTools, which I've opened here, in the console that lives in the DevTools, it is indeed logged out over 3 lines. So this is a quirk with the Scrimba console. It's not as robust as the Chrome console, basically. So for this challenge, you'll have to open up the original browser console in order to verify that you've done it correctly. And if you don't know how to open the developer tools, I will show you now. When you're in the Scrim, move your cursor up to the header area of the scrim, then right click so that you open this menu, click on inspect, and that'll open up the developer tools. Make sure you are on the console tab. Now, of course, this is how it works in Chrome, and I'm on a Mac computer myself. So if you are on a different operating system and using a different browser, it might be slightly different ways of opening up the console, but that shouldn't be a problem. If so, you just need to Google it out, how to open the console on Windows using Firefox, for example. So go ahead now, break the email string into multiple lines, log it out, and then open the console.
Let's go.
that shouldn't be a problem. If so, you know how as robust tools, here is an example where I've created this random string, which is on 3 different lines. You can see that in the Scrimba console, we're logging it out on a single line. Whereas in the dev tools, which I've opened here, in the console that lives in the dev tools, it is indeed logged out over 3 lines. So this is a quirk with the Scrimba console. It's not as robust as the Chrome console, basically. So for this challenge, you'll have to open up the original browser console in order to verify that you've done it correctly. And if you don't know how to open the developer tools, I will show you now. When you're in the scrim, move your cursor up to the header area of the scrim, then right click so that you open this menu, click on inspect, and that'll open up the developer tools. Make sure you are on the console tab. Now, of course, this is how it works in Chrome, so that you open this menu, click to open the developer tools. I will show you now. When you're in the scrim, move your cursor up to the header area of the scrim, then right click so that you open this menu, click on inspect, and that'll open up the developer tools. Make sure you are on the console tab. Now, of course, this is how it works in Chrome, and I'm on a Mac computer myself. So if you are on a different operating system and using a different browser, it might be slightly different ways of opening up the console, but that shouldn't be a problem. If so, you just need to Google it out, how to open the console on Windows using Firefox, for example. So go ahead now, break the email string into multiple lines, log it out, and then open the console to verify that you've done it correctly, using Firefox, for example. So go ahead now. Open the console.
Okay. How do I keep it down?
To verify, you can just make this into a new line. You can do like that in the. Okay, we are back at our Chrome extension app, and now you are going to do the same thing I did before we went on our little tangent about template strings, which is to take this list items and turn the string here into a template string so that you can get rid of all of these pluses, all of these double quotes, and also break it into multiple lines if you want. So go ahead and do that.
Let's do this. So firstly, what I want to do, and then we'll come. Okay, guys, let's start this. What is we are on? First thing is using Why do I not just copy this control V and first name will be name as well and string like that. The fuck I can't see. السلام عليك يا مصطفى. What the fuck? To the spoons that Stewie?
By replacing the outer quote, wraps an anchor tag. I'm going to put this on a new line.
See, when we use inner HTML, then does it not register this?
And here we still
Okay, it just turns it into a HTML. Okay, if it turns it to fully
have these
HTML.
clunky plus signs. It still works exactly how we want it to. So let's
Okay, I
move
think
on.
what you know what I think it just turns it to an HTML. It straight turns it to an HTML. So it doesn't give a shit about how many spaces have you done. It just turns it to HTML.
Now, let's take a little break from JavaScript and head over to our index.css file because I want you to style our list according to the provided design. And here is the provided design. You can see the links have the same color as the rest of our app. We don't have the bullet points, which you can see are here in the current example. So I want you to fix that. And the three selectors you are to use are the UL, LI, and the anchor tag. And I've set them up for you. So you just have to write a few CSS properties and values inside of these. And then once you're done, return back to the screencast, because then I also will show you my.
Okay. I will just going to copy this into my VS Code, but firstly let's see if it runs. Let's see. How to remove points from from Okay, it does work. Yeah, it does work. So we have this and I'm going to. Okay, it is padding of time. So, okay, color. Right?
Pretty good. Let's compare the two now. What I think is that we have some more spacing here. There's more spacing between the list items and also a little bit more spacing above the unordered list. So starting with the unordered list, I think we can give it a margin top of like 20 pixels, slightly down. And for the li elements, I think we can give them also a
Put some.
margin top, maybe then 5 pixels. Yeah, now they have a little bit more space in between them. So I think this looks pretty good. So this challenge is done. But before we move on, there's one thing I want to point out, and that is that we are using very broad selectors for our CSS. We're basically selecting any unordered list or any list item or any anchor tag on the page. And this comes with the consequence that if we, for example, want to add other anchor tags in our app that are outside of this list of leads, for example, let's
This
say
is
we
process,
added
bro.
an anchor tag in the very top of our app, kind of like a navigation. If we run this, you can see it says home and we add awesome lead. It's in the same styling as awesome lead. This might not be what we want. Oftentimes, anchor tags and links will look slightly different depending on the context they were shown in. What we could do to solve this problem would be to, down here, when we are flipping the color, specify that we only want to do that if the anchor tag lives inside of a list item. And we'd solve that by doing li and then a space and then the a. Now you can see the home link has the standard styling, whereas the anchor tag in our list has our green styling. So
Okay.
this is a way of saying only target anchor tags that lives inside of list items. However, in this case, we can get away by just targeting our anchor tags, as we're not planning to add any other anchor tags across the page. So we can remove our home tag and then just target this list item in the easiest possible way, which is what we have here.
Let's get styles. And styles, kiss. Give me top. Hello. Yo, hello, moving. And remove the underlines if you want. You can use text declaration.
That's perfectly fine to do as long as we're understanding the future possible consequences
Text
of doing that.
declaration
And
and
now I think we do that. So let's just what we have here, as that's perfectly fine to do as long as we're understanding the future possible consequences of doing that. And now I think we do that. So let's just move on. So, even though we haven't completed our app yet, there's still many features left to build. I want to go ahead and deploy it right away, because I just think it's so much fun to actually see your app out in the wild, and that gives me a ton of motivation to continue on, which is why I often like to deploy my projects as early as possible. So much fun to actually see your app out in the wild, and that gives me a ton of motivation to continue on, which is why I often like to deploy my projects as early as possible. So in this cast, we're going to prepare our first deployment so that we in the next cast actually can do the deployment and try our app out in the Chrome browser. As you can see on the left-hand side here, I've added a couple of new files, namely the icon.png. That's just a PNG image, which looks like this little icon right here. Pretty suitable for our app with this $sign as our sales representatives are to be reminded that this app will bring in more dollars for their commissions. Also, you'll see a manifest.json file at the bottom here, and you might wonder, well, what is JSON? I've never seen that before. And you're right, we haven't talked about that earlier, but don't worry, it's nothing dangerous. JSON is short for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's a way for us developers to store and send data. And it's often used when you, for example, want to send a piece of data from a server to a client, that is, to a browser. And in our case, we are using this manifest.json file to configure our app and to provide metadata about it. So Google Chrome will read through this and look at the name. Oh, it's called Leads Tracker. Well, then Google Chrome will give our app the name Leads Tracker. It'll also see that the version is 1.0, so that the next time we deploy and we change this to, for example, 1.1, it'll know that, oh, we have updated our version. And that's information that's definitely useful to know for Google Chrome. One thing you might wonder here is why these key value pairs, as you can see, which you hopefully recognize from JavaScript objects, have keys that are wrapped in quite time. Look at the name. Oh, it's called Leads Tracker. Well, then Google Chrome will give our app the name Leads Tracker. It'll also see that the version is 1.0, so that the next time we deploy and we change this to, for example, 1.1, it'll know that, oh, we have updated our version. And that's information that's definitely useful to know for Google Chrome. One thing you might wonder here is why these key value pairs, as you can see, which you hopefully recognize from JavaScript objects, have keys that are wrapped in quotes.
Now he goes a bit slow, but if you understand fully, then you can use this knowledge. If you go to I know a series Sigma web tool, but my brother recommended this, and I will tell him so do I switch. But I think this is one of the best.
Because if you remember from when we worked with JavaScript objects previously, we didn't use quotes around our keys, but that's something you have to do when writing JSON. Wrapped in quotes, because if you remember from when we worked with JavaScript objects previously, we didn't use quotes around our keys, but that's something you have to do when writing JSON. So don't be tempted to think that this actually is a JavaScript object right now. It's not, it's just plain text, but it's using the JavaScript object notation. So it's mimicking a JavaScript object, and you later learn how to turn a JSON object into a JavaScript object. If this is a little bit confusing, don't worry about it. It'll sort itself out as we look more into this. Let's just move on and look at the two final key value pairs here. We have manifest version, that's just telling Chrome which version of this JSON file we are using. There used to be a version number 1 that people used, and then there was a version number 2, but now we have a version number 3. So that's version number 3. And finally, there's the action. And that's kind of the meat of our application. It configures what happens when the user clicks on our application from the Google Chrome extensions toolbar. Let me show you that. Here we have Twitter. And if I click on the extensions button up here in the top right corner, this little puzzle piece, you can see it opens up all of my extensions. And when I click at, for example, Grammarly for Chrome, it opens up the Grammarly extension. And as you can see, it uses a little icon here as well. So in the action, the default icon that you provide, this icon PNG here, which points to this image file we've provided, will pop up here besides this puzzle piece button. And also the default pop-up, the index.html that we provide inside of our action, well, it's our pop-up. And in our case, it'll say an icon that you provide, this icon PNG here, which points to this image file we've provided, will pop up here besides this puzzle piece button. And also, the default pop-up, the index.html that we provide inside of our action, well, it's our pop-up. And in our case, it'll simply be the HTML we have been building all along. Now, there's one thing we need to fix, which is that a Chrome extension will only be as wide as it needs to be, and strictly speaking, our app doesn't need to be any wider than this, because that's the width our button needs. So we need to set a min width on the index.css, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Min width of 400 pixels, for example. Now you can see if we go below 400 pixels, our input field is now outside of the app. So Google Chrome will understand that we don't want that. We want our app to be like this. This is the minimum size. So now we finally have everything in place. Your next step is to download this code. You do that by clicking on the settings icon in the bottom right corner and download as zip. That'll download a zipped folder. You can then open that zipped folder, for example, in your dev directory, and call it whatever you want. Here you can see all of the files that you recognize, along with a README file, which you can safely ignore or delete. That's up to you. And when you have that, we are ready to deploy our Chrome extension.
And for today, this he was only half bird before I even argued. There was somebody coming in. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da. Yeah, I have my own, own. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now we have to download this. Dumb ways to die. Open. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, mm, mm. I will take I will take two of these files. I will take two of these files. I've got two files. Okay, now what I will do is open the main directory, open those, open this, and this is my furniture images. This is from my one side. Only Indian knows this. Only Indians know this. Only Indians know this. With this, I'm going to keep it saved. Okay. No. Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, let's just deploy first and then.
Okay, it is time to deploy our application. And I'm so excited about this because I just love seeing products move out into the world and start solving problems for people. So let's just jump into this. The first thing you need to do is to head over to Chrome-//extensions. That'll bring up this UI you can see right here, which lists out all of your extensions. Now, this address here is a little bit funky, so you can just copy it from the file right here.
See? However,
And paste it into your address bar if you want to do that. And once you're there, I want you to trigger the developer mode on. So just click up here in the top right corner, and then you'll see these three buttons appear.
she doesn't work. Oh,
Here, load unpacked, pack extension, and update. And you are going to load an unpacked extension. So click that button. That'll bring up the file chooser menu. There you are to navigate to the leads tracker folder that we downloaded from Scrimba in the previous cast. Choose that folder and hit select. And once you've done that, boom, your lead tracker is now in the extensions interface. And actually, that's it. Now, if we open up another tab, for example, I'll open up the LinkedIn profile of Frode, one of the co-founders of Scrimba, and then I can click on the puzzle icon here in the top right corner. That'll bring up all my extensions, and there we can see our lead tracker. That is just so cool. You can see the little icon here, and if we click it, it brings up the user interface for our app. So that is amazing. Now I can, for example, write in the URL we're at the moment and hit save input, and there it is saved. So actually now we have something that you can take with you on every website you visit and save information. But our app has a critical flaw. Because if I now close this app, if I click outside of our HTML file and it closes automatically, and then want to open it up again, actually our leads have been deleted. Because that's just as if we were saving something to the input here, and then seeing it in the list, and then refreshing the page, and boom, it's gone again. So every time we open it, as if we have a corner script
Guys, I don't know. Doesn't work? What I can do? If it doesn't work, what can I do? If it doesn't work, what can I do? If it doesn't work, what can? No, no. Okay, okay. Oh, oh, I can complete today. Yeah, I can complete it today, and I'm going to practice for time 3, and then I will stop if I have time. Like how much? How much time do we have? Actually, not that much. So let's do this. But why the hell
You need to do is to head over.
it?
Okay, it is time.
If I go to this not this and I copy this control C, do this. I am so I am so mad that I can never be again. Okay, let's go. Furniture. No, 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 okay. No, no, no. I have to go inside this folder. Go inside it. Let me let, let this let me wait. Let us wait a sec. Okay. And you between the project. No. Where's our extension? Where's our zip? Oh, what the? See, our zip is here. Let me just close it and upload on. Why isn't it showing?
Time to deploy this out in the leads tracker folder that we downloaded from Scrimba in the previous cast. Choose that folder and hit select. That'll bring, you'll see these 3 buttons appear. Load unpacked, pack extension, and up leads tracker folder that we downloaded from Scrimba in the previous cast. Choose that folder and hit select. And once you've done that, we'll choose your menu. There you are to navigate to the leads tracker folder that we downloaded from Scrimba in the previous cast. Choose that folder and hit select. And once you've done that, boom, your lead tracker is now in the.
Unzip it. Let's see. Do we have? Let's unzip it. Let's pull directly. See, it macho man. Yes. Let's go. Hold on, no, go. I had to go to YouTube. We watch some videos, bro. We want some watch some videos, bro. I want to see some videos. Let's see it. I want to just watch later, so I have to. Does it mean copy its URL? Let's see. Oh, I want to watch this. Oh, but how will I keep it? No problem. Just go to lead tracker and track this lead. Save input. Now you have this and you can access it anytime soon.
Onus was a poor, 11-year-old, miserable orphan whose parents were killed when a high-tech fighter jet bombed the shit out of them.
Oh,
And because his combat
what? But this wasn't expected. Okay, we have done it. Let's see.
I can click on the puzzle icon here in the top right corner. Our app thing that you aged, saving some full refresh card. So
What the fuck?
seeing it in the list and then
What?
seeing it in the list and then refreshing the page and boom, it's gone again. So every time we open up our Chrome extension, it's a full refresh. So we need to learn how we can store data across page refreshes. How do we do that? That's not something you've learned yet, but it's not that hard. So over the next few casts, I'm going to teach you exactly that so that our app becomes truly useful for salespeople who need to traverse the web and gather leads. So let's just move on and get that sorted out. So in order to fix our problem of storing leads,
Oh, guys. Let me just go to handle the screen. Eh, eh, eh. And you're going to copy this and manifest. I'm going to copy this. Okay, let's go down this all there and let's go to and this file variable. Let's copy this extension. Let's see. Now, if we try to use let's call extensions from this can and if we go unpack and if we go to projects, then this. Oh, bro, I want to watch another video, but I don't want to miss its URL. Let's go to this YouTube. Where can the mine lead? This can be. I'm going to sell them anime sticker them. Whoop, yeah. I'm going to sell them Whoop attachments that will cost free.
ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ
Get
ਕਿਸਾਨ ਦੀ ਵਾੜੀ ਵਿੱਚ
ਇਹ ਰਸੀਲੇ ਲਾਲ ਟਮਾਟਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੱਥੇ
ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਸਭ ਦੀ ਵੀ
ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ 15 ਰੁਪਏ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਕੈਚਅਪ ਦਾ ਛੋਟੂ ਪੈਕ ਹੁਣ ਸਭ ਦੀ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਵਿੱਚ
ਕਿਸਾਨ ਲਾਈਟ ਸੁਪਰ ਲਾਈਟ I love my one
ਪੌਂਡ ਸੁਪਰ ਲਾਈਟ ਜੈਲ ਹਾਇਲੂਰੋਨਿਕ ਐਸਿਡ ਦੇ
So
ਨਾਲ
now we have to go.
ਇਹ
Dr. Mike
ਜੈਲ ਦੇਵੇ 200% ਇਨਸਟੈਂਟ ਹਾਈਡਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵਾਟਰ ਫਰੈਸ਼ ਗਲੋ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਮਿਰਕਲਸ ਹੈਪਨ 64 ਰੁਪਏ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਹੈ
always in
I've
Punjab.
been testing the Whoop strap
But I want garbage. You are over. What the- But if you go here, okay, ours also. Let's go right.
Cross-page refresh. So in order to fix our problem of storing leads across page refresh, let's actually open up a browser window and see if we can find a way to do this by playing around with the developer tools. So here I have wikipedia.org. I'm going to right click and then hit the inspect so that we open the developer tools. Here we're starting out at the elements, so we see the HTML elements of the page. But where our action happens is over in the application tab. So I'm going to click that, and there you can see we get a new list of fancy words here on the left-hand side. Service workers, storage, local storage, cookies. Some of these names you might have already heard before, and they're probably a bit scary. And to be honest, you don't need to know about it. On the left-hand side, service workers, storage, local storage, cookies. Some of these names you might have already heard before, and they're probably a bit scary. And to be honest, you don't need to know about any of them at this point. What we want to look at is this one right here called local storage. Because when we click that, we can see it says wikipedia.org here, and if we click into that item as well, it opens up this table here on the right-hand side where we have keys and values. And that's something you probably recognize from JavaScript objects, for example, or even the JSON notation. Here you can see that Wikipedia has created 3 weird-looking keys and given them some values. So it seems as if Wikipedia is trying to store some value about me, because these values here in local storage will only be available for me. They are local to me. When I visit this domain, this data isn't shared by default with all other users who visit Wikipedia at this point. For example, you can see portal session ID, some weird long string. That's probably totally unique to me. But without getting into too many details here, what's important is that this is kind of like a local database that we can use. So let's try to do that. If we hit on the console tab, and open up the console, which you've previously seen, and then type in, for example, local storage.clear, and open and close parentheses to call that function, and then navigate back to the application tab, you can see that we have cleared out all of the key value pairs in our local storage. So we were able to interact with these values using JavaScript. Going back to the console, we can yet again, for example, do local storage.setItem, and then pass in first my leads as a string, and then comma, and then I'm going to pass in the string of the URL that we visited previously, that is Froda's LinkedIn profile, and then hit enter. If we now go back to application again, you can see that we have a key value pair in our local storage. The key is my leads, and the value is the URL to Froda's LinkedIn profile. And what's so cool about this, if I now try to hit the refresh button, what you'll see is that yet again, Wikipedia adds back these 3 key value pairs, but the my leads key and its value persists. And that is exactly the feature we're looking for. Persisting data cross page refresh. So with this in mind, let's move on and try to...
Let me also go to Wikipedia. Hey, yo, Wiki! Wikipedia. Hey yo, Wiki. Take a Slim Shadypedia. Hey yo, Wiki. Slim Shadypedia. Hey yo, Wiki. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm not. Bro, this is like I don't want to read this again because my eyes hurt like this now.
Interact with the local storage from our index.js file in the next cast. So I'll
Oh,
see you there.
oh brother, oh. It stores its own unique things. Yeah,
So now
it is stored its the person's own unique things.
we are going to use local storage in our app. And we do that in the exact same way as we did it using the console on wikipedia.org. However, we're writing it in our JavaScript file. That means that we can simply use the local storage variable. That is accessible in the so-called global scope. So when you're running JavaScript in a browser, you have access to this variable wherever you are. We'll then do set item, open and close parentheses, and then we'll first write the name of our item. We'll call it my leads. Then we'll specify the value. Here I'll just do example lead.com. So this is the key and this is the value. If I now run this code, nothing seems to have happened, but if we actually delete this entire line and even rerun the browser again so that we know that the only way to get a hold of that data would be if it is persisted in local storage, and then try to do exactly that by doing local storage.get item, passing in the name of our item, the key, and that was my leads, and then we console log that out. Running the code, there we go.
Bro,
Examplelead.com is
doesn't
logged
worry.
to the
Bro,
console
doesn't
because our
worry.
browser remembers that we previously saved a lead under this name, and now we can get it. That is pretty cool. It opens up so many possibilities. Now I want you to try this. You're going to solve a 3-part challenge. First, you are to save a key value pair in local storage in the exact same way as I did, and then you are to refresh the page, and then get the value and log it out to the console. Finally, I want you to clear out the local storage as well. And as a little hint, I have added the 3 methods you are to use down here. Local storage.setItem, passing in key and value, getItem, passing in key, and clear, which clears out the entire local storage. So you need to use all of these 3. And one little gotcha before you take a stab at this. Both the key and the value that you pass in here and here need to be strings. That's a limitation with local storage, meaning you can only store strings. So it is a very primitive database, but it's what we got. So give this your best shot and then return.
Okay, first you have to say value key pairs in. Okay, then the key value name and then the key value. So What the Why is it working? The ground floor not working. I don't know this. What the fuck? Yo, man, why the? What doesn't this work? I hate this scream boom.
I can do local store. A little bonus here. And then console log out the name instead of just console logging out this expression. When we run this, you can see, yes, we are logging out my name. Good stuff. Let's move on to the code so that now, hopefully, I'm going to call this one my. I can actually comment it out because we don't need it anymore. Harold Oregon, like that. I'm going to run the code so that now, hopefully, this has been saved, meaning I can actually comment it out because we don't need it anymore. Now I can do local storage dot get item and then pass in my name like that. Actually, I'm going to store this in a variable called name, just as a little bonus here. And then console log out the name.
Scream my son, yeah. Scream, go. Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work? See, this fucking doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, but I think it's in practice for me to understand.
With our myLeads array, now, there is one issue with storing our leads in local storage as an array. And that's something we'd be aware about if we, for example, were to head over to Mozilla Developer Docs to read a little bit about local storage. Here you can see the window.local storage page. The reason it says window here is because local storage actually exists on this window object. But you can also use the local storage variable directly. And when writing code in general, I would say that less is more. So that if I can write less code, I will do that. So that's why I'm omitting the window dot syntax. Anyway, here we can read that the local storage read-only property of the window interface allows you to access a storage object for the document's origin. Oh my god, that's just really complicated in my view, especially for a beginner. So let's scroll a bit down and read about what it actually does down in the description. The keys and the values stored with local storage are always in the UTF-16 DOM string format. What the hell does that mean? I mean, UTF-16 DOM string? That is some hardcore stuff, but we are not going to worry about all that. The only thing that matters is string. We at least know what that is. And as you can see here, as with objects, integer keys are automatically converted to strings. Okay, so it seems like actually everything that is stored inside of local storage has to be strings. Well, that's a problem because we were expecting to store this array here. So how do we do this? Well, to get someone to explain this to us in an easier way, I would just Google out our problem, store array in local storage, and look for the first Stack Overflow question. How do I store an array in local storage? Okay, that's our problem as well. And instead of fine reading the question, I just jump to the answer immediately because I'm impatient. And there you can see a very straightforward explanation. Local storage only supports strings. Use json.stringify and json.parse. Okay, here we can see some code. And we recognize this local storage.set item and then passing in the key. And then instead of just passing in the value, which here should be the names array, they are doing json.stringify and passing in the names array in that. So it seems as if this json.stringify takes the array and turns it into a string. And likewise, on the other side, when they are to fetch data from local storage, they use local storage.getItemNames, but then wrapping that entire expression.
Bro, I understand. See, when it does this, it just converts it to a string, and when it does the json.parse, it just does, and it just converts it to from string to the array.
Into json.parse. So that seems to go the other way around, from string to array. Okay, so actually, let's just try this. Let's pretend that this is our array in local storage. We have one lead here. And as we read in local storage, everything is strings. So we have to turn this into a string, and we can use that with the backticks like that. Now this is a string. And the problem here would be that, let's say that we fetch this from local storage and we want to push another
Bro, just use stringify. I'll kill you, bro.
lead to the array. And we try to do that with my leads.push epiclead.com.
How will it work?
Run this. We get an error. My leads.push is not a function. That is because the push method doesn't exist on strings. It only exists as a method you can use on arrays. So what we then have to do first, here we've gotten the data from local storage. Now we need to do what our friend over at Stack Overflow did, which was to parse the entire thing. So we can do my leads equals JSON.parse and then pass in my leads here. Now, after the push, log out my leads, run it. Yes, now we can see, now it worked. How about if we wanted to go the other way around? This here, where we're actually stringifying the array so that we can save it in localify, and then passing in my leads. Then we'll ask JavaScript. In the console, it kind of looks like an array, so maybe not the best example, but what we can do here is we can do type of before my leads. Then we'll ask JavaScript to tell us which type is this variable here. If we run this, you can see we get string. So by using the so-called JSON methods, that is the stringify and the parse, and passing in our data, we can flip back and forth between strings and arrays. And also, obviously, if we used a JSON object like this with the curly brackets, it would turn it into a JavaScript object and the other way around. And that's actually a more common use case. But in our case, we have an array to work with, and it does the job perfectly well for arrays as well. Okay, now it's your turn to practice. I'm going to turn this back into a string and give you a set of instructions. Okay, you are going to do these 4 steps. First, turn the myLeads string into an array, then push a new value to that array, then turn the array into a string again, and finally, console log the string using the type of.
Turn my lead. Let's see if someone is watching. I know no one will be watching, but let's just try. Oh my god, wow, oh my. YouTube Studio. Oh my god, wow. Is really someone watching? YouTube Studio. Oh my god, what the it showed you 2 views. Someone was watching. Is really someone watching? They left. Why did you left? My vengeance will always follow you till you die. My vengeance! I'll do Kratos and I'll kill you, bro. Remember this. Turn it into string. Let me just do here.
Now, there is one issue with storing our leads in local storage. That's just, and there is some copy, and like what JSON string, and we can use this. We get an error. What we then thing. Now, after
Alright. Okay, let's go. So I'll do my leads. Is going to route force my now how do we push? Actually my leads push no help me. Mm, so that's 25 then and then title. String wow wow woo woo woo.
okay, hopefully this went well. Let's do this. First, we'll do my leads equals JSON parse, passing in my leads to.com leads, and finally we have gone from. Now you are going to implement the first part of our local storage feature.
Guys, wait for 1 sec because I have to do I have lots of holidays, but I didn't did a fucking thing of my school because I had lots of things to do. But fuck school, bro. Is school? No, fuck, sorry. I'm doing so much there. But what is going to school do with me? Coding can help me in lots of ways, but what can this help me do? Nothing. Let me just open this. Yeah, I open this. And I may drink some. Oh, I don't know, but I may. And yeah.
Feature, and that consists of saving the myLeads array to local storage. So that should happen here on line 11, right after you've pushed the new lead to the myLeads array and cleared out the input field, then we are ready to actually save it to local storage. And you have to remember to use the json.stringify when saving it, even though the browser we're using might be kind to us and actually do this for us if it notices that we haven't done it. We want to be explicit about this so that we remind ourselves that we know the difference between working with just plain text or a proper JavaScript array. So remember to do that. And once you've written your solution, you should run the code by filling out the input field and hitting the save input button, because this line at the bottom of the function will also be run, and it heads into local storage and gets the item that is called myLeads. So if your implementation has worked, this console log should log out whatever, and now you are going to implement the first part of our local storage feature, and that consists of saving the myLeads array to local storage. So that should happen here on line 11.
Okay, I have to save my leads array to local storage. Okay. My leads array to local storage.
Right after you've pushed the new lead to the myLeads array and cleared out the input field, then we are ready to actually save it to local storage. And you have to remember to use the json.stringify when saving it, even though the browser we're using might be kind to us and actually do this for us if it notices that we haven't done it. We want to be explicit about this so that we remind ourselves that we know the difference between working with just plain text or a proper JavaScript array. So remember to do that. And once you've written your solution, you should run the code by filling out the input field and hitting the save input button, because this line at the bottom of the function will also be run, and it heads into local storage and gets the item that is called myLeads. So if your implementation has worked, this console log should log out whatever you've saved to local storage as well, because myLeads is actually the key we want to use in order to save our array. So use this as the key. So go ahead and do this.
And okay, see guys. Right. Let's see what I'm going to do. First I'll do this and then copy paste in there, okay. First what I'm going to do. Okay, first I'm going to do is local to not first what I'm doing is local storage dot trunk push catch fit item out to add a new thing in the set item. Okay. Just to make set JSON dot stringify. Now we're stringifying links Hmm. Okay, first is local set item. Jason dot stringify my lead. Okay. At my leads to all Mr. Uh, um, um, okay, now I know. To set item first and have to put a key value. Whatever for me, my needs. Okay, bro, I think this error is
Okay, let's do this. First, we'll do local storage dot set item. And here, we first need to specify what key we want to save our item under. So we'll do J method. They are indeed logging out.
bro. Why did the
Let's
fucking same thing? What the? I'm fucking fed up with this. I did the fucking same thing. I did the fucking same thing. Man, hey, yo, man, you're making me angry now, man. I'm gonna come to your house, and this is not a death threat. It's a kill threat. I'm just joking. I'm just don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. Or am I? Be saucy. Um, Ali, 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 really, bad, bad. Let's do this. Opening browser. May you by my side. What the oh, okay, if you know say if you say hello now it's but it should be interesting. What is it drinking? Hmm. is local storage. Oh man, this is really local storage.
Run the code, try to add a lead, hit save input, and there we go. As you can see in the console, we are indeed logging out something that looks very much like an array with one item of awesome lead, which is exactly what we wanted. Great job, let's move on.
Great job, you
So
jump.
now we are able to set items in local storage, aka we are saving leads to local storage so that we can, for example, do awesome lead and epic lead and then see that yes, they are indeed logged out because we have fetched the item from local storage here. And actually, you can even open up the developer tools here on Scrimba and click down to cw0.scrimba.com, and there you will see my leads as the key and the values as well. And the reason it's cw0.scrimba.com is because that's actually the domain for this mini browser under the hood. However, that's Scrimba magic. Don't worry about that right now. Just know that you can access it by choosing that domain. Now, there's one big problem here though, which is that if we now refresh this page again, boom, our leads are gone. Or actually, they're not gone, they still exist down in local storage. However, we haven't written the code for heading into local storage, fetching out the leads, and then displaying them when we are refreshing the entire page. We're actually not doing anything. We're just setting the my leads array to an empty array, and we're not even triggering the render leads. So there's multiple things we need to fix up here. But we're going to start small as usual. You are going to basically just try to get the leads from local storage and then store that in a variable, which I would call leads from local storage. And then
First, to get the leads from. First, and then.
log out this variable. So now I'm going to close the console. And before you go, I want to remind you about the JSON.py.
Okay, more. Shut the. Yeah. Wait a minute. Leads. This should work. Um, mm, it's not wrong. Yo. Yeah, yeah. And then minus. I'm logo. Leads. Nothing more to say. Literally nothing more to say. It's a shitty interface. Shitty, most shitty thing I have ever seen. Nope. So it's nope. Nope. DJ, bro. ठोकर आने पीछे डाले ठोकर आने ना ये वैल्यू स्टोन तो दया पहला बंदा ये आम बंदा है बंदा तररोश पड़ जाए सब पड़े शास में तो winds come homesteads. Hello, I don't understand a shit about this. The let I forgot the let. Yeah. Free. This is from a local story. As I walk in the valley of death, I take a look back and realize that I'm dead. Sobbing and laughing so long, even mama broken home, but I never got a man that I never got to.
Parse method that you learned earlier, because you want to use that exact same thing we're doing here to begin with, which is basically dot parse, and then we are logging out the array with the leads that we know that we had here in our local storage. If I now do local storage dot clear right above this line and run it, we get null. And now you're probably wondering, well, what the hell does null mean? And
One.
as you learn in the next lesson, null is a so-called falsy value that we developers use to signalize emptiness. And here, the developers behind local storage, that is, the people over at Google who have implemented local storage into Chrome, have made it so that it returns null when we ask for a key that doesn't exist. And actually, this is the case for all browsers because they have followed the same specification. However, this means that we'll end up in a situation where this variable, leads from local storage, is either null, which as I said is a falsy value, or it is an array, which is a so-called truthy value. So we're in a situation where we have to act upon a variable that is either truthy or falsy, which is not the same as true and false, meaning we have to dig deeper into what exactly truthy and falsy means, and we'll do that in the next lesson.
What the fuck does bro say? What the hell does bro say? I didn't understand that shit.
Okay, so let's learn about
Bro, bro. I'm still 1 or 2 hours. I think I can easily complete it. So guys, I'm going to just take a break off from water. Yo guys, we are back with another banger. It's like banger, not banger. It's like banger. You guys, that's
Truthy and falsy values. So let's say that we, for example, have a slot machine app. So we have const credits. That's how many credits you as a player have. And then we need to check if credits is more than 0. Well, then you're allowed to play the slot machine. So we'll log out let's play with a slot machine emoji. And then else, this means that your credit isn't over 0. So that means that you have to be at 0. Then we'll console log out. Sorry, you have no credits. Like that. Now, if we run this one time, you can see, sorry, you have no credits is logged out because credits was 0. This would evaluate to false. Credits is not more than 0, meaning JavaScript would jump to the else clause. However, if we change this to 12, then this expression, 12 greater than 0, would evaluate to true, and this block of code would be run. Now, JavaScript isn't really that strict about what you shove into the condition here. Actually, if we only shoved in credits like that and try to run this again, you can see that we are still logging out let's play. So even though this would be evaluated to 12, when it's shoved into a conditional statement as this, JavaScript will then again translate 12 to true. Likewise, if credits is 0 and we run the code, you can see sorry you have no credits is logged out because this would be translated to 0 first, and then JavaScript would say, oh no, that's a falsy value, so I'm going to translate that to false. So where you before learned about true and false values, you now have to understand truthy and falsy values. Let's try another one. For example, YOLO, just a string. What do you think that will be? When I run this code, what will be logged out? Just take a guess.
let's play.
Okay, let's run it. We can see let's play is logged out. In other words, YOLO, or this string right here, is a truthy value because JavaScript turns this into true in the condition. And as well, if we pass in an array of random items, run the code, that is also a truthy value. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do an empty string.
It's
Run the
false.
code. Oh no, that's a falsy value because it got translated into false, meaning this block of code didn't run. JavaScript jumped to the next block, the else clause, and logged out, sorry, you have no credits. So let's go back to just adding credits here so that our if else makes sense. And then at this point, you might feel that truthy and falsy values is really complex because how will you keep track of all of these truthy and falsy values? It seems like there's a ton of things to remember. Luckily though, it's not that hard. You essentially have to remember these 6 values. They are the falsy values in JavaScript. False, 0, an empty string,
None.
null, undefined,
And
and this weird thing right here, nan, short for
not
not
for
a number. And out in the real world, inside of conditionals, in most cases, you'll work with either false, null, or undefined. So actually, this nan here is rarely ever used, which is why I'm not going to talk anymore about it. Null and undefined, though, deserves a little bit of time, because a lot of developers are confused about these two, and they mix them together. Now, let's look at the similarities first. They are both primitive data types, just like strings, numbers, and booleans, and they're also both ways to signalize emptiness. However, on a high level, the core difference is that null is how you as a developer signalize emptiness, whereas undefined is how JavaScript signalizes emptiness. So you will use null as a developer. It's a useful tool, whereas undefined is something you'll be exposed to because JavaScript will tell you from time to time that what you're looking for is undefined. Now, let's see this through the lens of an example, as that'll help us see the difference between the two. Like, you'll sometimes see developers declare variables and assign them as null. Let's say you are creating a live streaming app and you have current viewers, and that's set to null, meaning that no people are watching the live streams at the moment. However, a bit later, a few viewers might pop up and you might want to do current viewers equals and then an array of Jane and Nick, like that. The reason this can be a useful way of describing the situation in terms of how many people who are watching the stream is because you might want to act upon whether or not there are people in the stream. So if current viewers, then you might want to do something. For example, notify the live streamers that people are watching. So go ahead and turn on your live stream. Console log, we have viewers, like that. Now, this block of code will only fire if current viewers has been set to an array. We have viewers, like that. Now, this block of code will only fire if current viewers has been set to an array. So now you can see it'll be logged out. And let's say a bit later, lose all the viewers and you set it to null. We run the code, nothing happens because null is a falsy value, meaning that this will be false, whereas the array here is a truthy value. So when current viewers equals that array, it's set to true, and this block of code is run. Now, here you can see that null is a useful way of signalizing emptiness because an empty array wouldn't do the trick. If we run this code, you can see we are indeed logging this code because current viewers is an empty array, which then again evaluates to true. So it's better to use null here. That was how you as a developer can signalize emptiness and act upon whether or not a variable is empty. Let's now look at undefined and see how JavaScript uses that to signalize emptiness as well. And we can do that by simply removing everything except let current viewers will get undefined. So JavaScript tells us that this variable is undefined or kind of like empty. Likewise, if this, for example, was an object and you try to log out a key that doesn't exist, random key using the dot syntax, you'd also get undefined. JavaScript tried to look for this, but it was completely empty. Here, if it is an array with one item, and you try to look for the item at index 5, run this, again, JavaScript says undefined. So this way, when you see either null or undefined in your codebase, it should provide you with a hint as to whether this is JavaScript trying to signalize emptiness, or if there's a developer who's written that code and has tried to signalize emptiness. So that was a long walkthrough of the differences between null and undefined, is truthy or falsy, which you can use whenever you are in doubt. And then let's wrap up this cast. And in the next one, I'm going to teach you a neat little trick to check if a value is truthy or falsy, which you can use whenever you are in doubt. And then I'm going to stress test your truthy and falsy skills. So let's move on.
Oh, give me space, Bill. I'm the company.
If you ever wonder whether a value is truthy or falsy, you can check it through writing boolean, open and close parentheses, and then pass in whatever value you want to check inside of those parentheses. So here we'll do hello. Let's store this in a variable called true or false. Now console log true or false. On the code, you can see that we get true, meaning that hello evaluates to true. Removing the content of the string, running it again, we get false, because as you hopefully remember, an empty string is a falsy value. Now, with this in mind, you are going to do a set of challenges, which I said in the previous cast. Here they are. It's 6 console logs, and inside of them, we are checking a bunch of values for their Boolean value. So each of these lines will log out either true or false, and your job is to here
False. 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 No, I did. My mistake, bro. I'm so sorry. I'm fucking sorry. Is it also false?
Okay, let's do this. So an empty string, as we remember, that is a falsy value, so this will log false. Here, I'm trying to trick you because 0 is indeed a falsy value, but this is, hopefully you remember that that is a false. Array is a truthy value, so this will be true. Here, minus 0, 0 is a falsy value, and whether it's minus or plus 0 doesn't change that, so this should be false. Let's run the code, and we get false, true, true, false, true, false, or not stored in local storage. Turn back to the Chrome extension, and you'll use these truthy and falsy skills in order to build a conditional for the leads we have stored or not stored in local storage. So let's move on. So now that we're able to check if we have any leads in our local storage, and if so, we parsed those leads so that we get them as a JavaScript array, we are ready to act upon whatever data we get here. And first, let's then look at what kind of data we can get, because there's essentially two situations we need to account for. One is this one right here, where the my array in local storage gives us back some data, for example, this array right here. If so, we have something to work with and we can render it out instantly. But then there's the other situation, which is the one right here, where actually there's no data in the myLeads key in local storage, and actually the key doesn't even exist. If so, we know that we get back null. So that is a falsy value, and this is a truthy value. So then the question is, what are we going to do in these two cases? Well, if the value is null, meaning that there's no leads stored in local storage, well, we're not going to do anything because there's no point trying to render out any leads if there's no leads that are saved there initially. So then we're just going to ignore it, not do anything. But if we find a couple of leads, if we get an array back from this expression right here, then we need to first set my leads to whatever leads we are returning back, and then call the render leads expression right here, leads that are saved there initially. So then we're just going to ignore it, not do anything. But if we find a couple of leads, if we get an array back from this expression right here, then we need to first set my leads to whatever leads we are returning back, and then call the render leads function, because the render leads function takes the leads in the myLeads array and renders them out. Because of course, that's what we want to do. We want to show the user whatever we found in local storage. So here is the challenge formulated. First, check if leads from local storage is truthy. That's this variable right here. If so, set the myLeads variable, this one up here, to its value. And by that, I mean the value of this variable right here, the leads we have fetched out from local storage, and then call render leads. So this might be a little bit of a difficult challenge, but give it your best shot.
Not difficult. It's not as difficult as. Just give quick. Now see what we'll do. One thing that we have to do first is check if story time remember this. I don't remember how I did it. I just let me just see. Remember it. Okay, first what I did set item my leads dot JSON was signified the lead. Okay, then I this one. Then what I did here is that I paused it to a normal, and okay. So like, let me show you. Okay. So what first I did is, when my lead is a local container. Okay. Like if you think small bucket. Okay. Let me just show you, and let me just understand. Make you understand. Okay. My lead is a small container that just stores the data that is given in the input. Okay, that the storage is given into the input field. It only stores the data that is given to the input field and is to save input. It goes to this. Okay, then what happens is, in here, then it stringifies and goes to set local storage data, and which is the key of my leads. Okay, and then we render it. Then what we do is, then we from the leads from storage that has been, then what you do is we make a variable called leads from storage and parse the data that we have given it before, and it stores, it remembers, it always remembers it. So then what you do, if it's not if it's true, then what has happened, my lead becomes leads from storage, then it gets the data from my leads and storage, and it renders the lead. Okay. And it's a bit confusing, but what can I do?
Shot, and then I will show you the solution as well when you return. We'll do it. And if it's and then we are going to storage. It's most likely null. Let's just log it out to verify that. Yes, we're indeed logging out null. What we then can do instead is actually add awesome lead and epic lead to our list. Now both of these should be saved in local storage. We should be in this situation right now. So if I refresh, yes! Now we have persisted our leads across refresh. That is so cool. So give yourself a pat on the back. You should be so proud of yourself reaching this far. You're now working with a small database, basically. And that's a huge step towards becoming a professional developer. Now we need to fix the fact that we can't delete our leads, because obviously
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's very less now.
that's a feature we need. Let's say that I'm a sales development representative and I'm gathering leads like this. I have 4 leads at this point, and now I want to go ahead and contact these people, or maybe move this data over into a spreadsheet, for example, so that I again can go out to the World Wide Web and churn through leads on LinkedIn and save them to my Chrome extension. Well, then I obviously need to get rid of these existing leads so that I get a clean slate to start with. But now churn through leads on LinkedIn and save them to my Chrome extension. Well, then I obviously need to get rid of these existing leads so that I get a clean slate to start with. But now that's not possible. I can refresh this as many times as I want. It'll just continue to store my leads. So we need a delete button. We need something that looks like this. And that is what you are going to do. In this challenge, you are going to style this delete button. And then later on, we're going to write the code for its functionality as well. But first, we have to create the button in the HTML, and I'm just going to do that for you. So like that, delete all. And as you can see, if we render this out, you can see that it's actually looking pretty good already. It has the default button styling that we have added in our CSS here. But we want it to be kind of the inverse of the save input button, so that you properly see that it's something different. And in order to target that button, we need to give it an ID of delete-btn, like that. Now, before you start writing your code inside of the delete btn selector right here, I am going to do one change on the button as a whole, because actually this button, which you can see in the slide, has slightly different styling than this one here. And that is that the border is actually not none. It's actually 1 pixel, solid, and then this green color, like here. You can see both buttons got 1 pixel added to its border. If I remove this, you'll see that the buttons become slightly smaller. They shrinken slightly, like that, with 0, and they become a bit larger if I do 1. And let's just try a different color here. Do red. There you'll clearly see it with 1 pixel and with 0 pixels. We want 1 pixels of the green color because that's needed to get this green border around this delete all button. So now we are ready. You are to style the button according to the provided design, and you're only going to apply the style.
Hey yo. Hey yo, man. I'm begging, button. Delete. I already need to spelling. Ahio. Did it all? Sorry guys, now I'm not going to do slurs, okay? I do too much of slurs. So, button. So why is it? Hmm. Okay. Okay. This background color is one. Okay, tell you. We are officially halfway done.
Styles inside of this delete btn ID selector. So go ahead and do this, and then let's start. The first time also seemingly lost the text, but that's not the case. And paste it in, and there we go. Now we are going to make our delete all button actually work. So you'll do that through a 3-part challenge, pretty big one actually. But first, I'm going to give you a little mini challenge, and that is this leads from local storage here. Should that be defined as a let, or do you think we should change it to a const? Just look at what we're doing with it down here on line 8.
Go const.
in line 9 const because we're and take your best guess finding it here. And if you remember from previously, it's a good practice to, if you can use const, then use const because it enforces strictness throughout your code base. When another developer comes in here or you in 2 months and looks at this leads from local storage and see, oh, it's a const, then I know that this will not be reassigned further down in the code. So that was just a little digression so that we got to clean up this little variable inconsistency here. Now let's move on to the major challenge.
Bruh. Bruh, didn't you? I was telling me that I was the only
As I said, it's 3-part. First, you are going to grab a hold of the delete button and store it in a delete btn variable. Then you are going to listen for double clicks on the delete button. And if you don't know how to listen for double clicks, you should just Google it. Finally, when the button has been clicked, that is double clicked, you should clear the local storage, you should clear out the myleads variable, that is this one up here, and you should also clear out the DOM so that the user doesn't see any more leads on this unordered list. So a pretty big this one up here, and you should also clear out the DOM so that the user doesn't see any more leads on this unordered list. So a pretty big one, but give this one a shot and
see guys see that I got guys, I can do anything. Don't talk to me like that. I'm not stupid, but I'm standing up. My clansman of Frank. Why do one man staying on a being on a sing on a king over? Rah, 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 document that you search and letter and then hashtag hashtag so delete begin. Okay. So I get in hold of this object then we do that. No, what did I say? What did I say? Having no regrets. That's version only for Mac OS, not version for like I don't know. It was only Mm. Deep breath. You only half it before I even argued. How glad I was. ABL sick. Okay, man. Alright. Let's go. Alright. Uh, let's go start. Uh, let's it. Yeah. We don't need to then those stepping on number. I'm a big string. How do I clear my leaves? Mm, how to okay. I did it, boy. I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it. While as an 8 book. I have to see.
Pair will define The T button are usable. I think it's a lot easier to learn from that rather from textual explanations. Here we can see card.add event listener dbl click. DBL click. We'll run the code, double click on delete all, and yes, it worked. If I try a single click, nothing happens. But double click, yes. Okay, good. 3, when clicked, clear local storage, the myLeads variable. Finally, clearing out the DOM. How do we do that?
Where did it seem?
Well, actually, the trick is to simply render out the leads, which now are just an empty array. So we just trigger the render leads function.
Oh,
Render.
hello. Bro, because it shows in the DOM that it shows in the DOM the my leads that the things that are in my leads. When you clear the my leads, it will not show. It will just clear the DOM.
Leads, like that. Let's rerun this, and now try to double click on the delete all. Yes! Now we remove everything in the DOM, and we have cleared the local storage. Our array is empty. We have a working delete button. We can delete this console log here. Great job doing this challenge. Let's move on.
Yes. Yes.
Now that we have an app that actually works pretty well, we're going to do something we haven't done a lot throughout this course, which is to refactor our code. And not only refactor it based upon a current need, we're going to refactor it based upon a hypothetical future use case. So for this, we're not going to use the mini browser, so I'm just going to minimize that one. And actually, I'm also going to take this function render leads and move it up here right below this conditional, because it is the render leads function we're mainly going to refactor. And the reason for that is the following. This function now currently has a very low degree of what we would call reusability, because here it is hard-coded that whenever it's called, it's always going to look at the myLeads variable, the one we've created up here, our global variable, and render out whatever exists in that array at that point in time. Now, let's say that we one time in the future also have another array. For example, let all leads, perhaps just a bunch of slightly unimportant leads that you've shoved into this array that you don't want to render out at any given time, but you want to perhaps have the opportunity to bring them up from time to time. If so, we would struggle to render them out, because, as I said, in our render leads function, we only care about the myLeads array. So what we can do instead is to make this function a bit more dynamic and have it render out whatever array we tell it to render out. And the way we do that is to pass in a variable as a so-called argument when we call it. So we could take myLeads here and then pass it in like this in between the parentheses, so that it would be possible for us to use it inside of the body of our function, but without referring to myLeads directly like this. Now, let's just pause here for a minute before we rewrite the body of the function, just in case this seems weird, because you might feel you're walking on thin ice here, but actually, you've been passing in arguments into functions when you have called them for quite a while now. Because that is exactly what you're doing up here, for example, the getElementById function, which you are calling and giving it the string of inputl, so that this function, when it does its magic and walks through the HTML file in the search of its element, knows when it hits this point, here it is. This is the element I'm looking for, because Pierre told me so when he wrote this code. He told me that this is indeed the ID he wants. Hadn't we done that, well, the function would have been like blind to whatever it was looking for. Wouldn't be able to recognize this element. But we did, of course, give it that value. And that...
First, let's. Okay, no. I know what he's gonna do. I know it. I know it. I said I'll never fall.
That is also what we're doing here now. We're telling render leads that we want you to render out this data right here. And then to make this work, we also have to here write something like leads inside of the parentheses here as well. The way this works is that when this function is called with this data passed in, this data, this array, will become this variable here, which is accessible inside of the body of the function. So now we can replace my leads with leads here, and we can replace it here and here. At this point, the body of this function has no idea and no relation to this myLeads global variable up here. It only cares about what you entered into the function when you called it. And now what actually makes sense is to skip the usage of the word leads in the name of the function, because actually the function at this point doesn't even know that it's rendering out leads. It could be rendering out a bunch of names of soccer teams or a list of fruits or whatever it is. It renders out whatever you pass into it. So actually what we want to do is remove this leads here and simply call it render. Now this of course requires us to do the same thing on the delete button. Here we'll use the new name render, and we have just cleared out the myLeads array, so it's an empty array. So what we'll do is simply pass in myLeads here as well. And finally, on the input button, when we add new leads, we have also modified the myLeads array. So we'll take that and paste it into the parentheses of the function invocation, and then of course use the updated name as well.
Okay. So it takes like leads leads and right here the leads leads
So now, so we'll take.
You're back, guys. It's still 1 hour. I think I can easily complete it before it. So sorry. Mm, mm. Okay, we were asleep, just redoing everything. Okay. But did I just use element? I don't know, I'm stupid. No, I accept. Mm. Oh, okay. Am I? Am I? No, I'm not using it. Here in the for loop, I have written my leads, not in here, not here. They're adding leads. Things that still is likely how they oh, okay. Let's go. Hmm. Okay.
Take that, called render, which can take any array you give it and then render it out. We'll rerun the code, and just as this to YOLO, this to YOLO, and this to YOLO. Let's try this. We'll rerun the code. Save awesome lead, epic lead, it works. And yes, the delete button also works. And just as a final notice, it doesn't matter what we call to YOLO. However, we actually want to use semantically meaningful names, so let's use leads instead, like that. You're probably a little bit confused right now. That's totally okay. Let's take a closer look at how to use arguments in functions.
I know.
Okay, let's return back to the example of greeting our users, which we've looked at earlier in the course. So on Scrimba, we have this welcome back Per Harold Borgen text, which is visible on the dashboard. And here I have the basic setup for such a feature using a function. Starting from the top of the file, you can see that we are heading into the DOM and fetching a welcome element. That is the HTML. You can see right here, this paragraph, which is completely empty at the moment. And here in the greet user function, we take that welcome element and we set its text content to welcome back Per Harold Borgen with an emoji at the end. If we run this, nothing happens, of course, because we also have to call the function greet user like that. Now, if we run it, we can see that it is rendered out on the page.
ओके कौन है